marketing, entrepreneurship, and all things small business. You're listening to the Jurassic Marketing's Triceratalks. Now, here's your host, Justin Miller.
I love those dinosaurs. I kind of forgot, how long of a roar that was.
Yeah, that intro is exceptionally good. I mean, those are the volume of the dinosaurs is right up there.
But it's a new year, and the dinosaurs are still alive, so
it's true.
It took us a little while to get to the first episode of the year, but we got here. We always do.
It seems like it's really a weird thing. I mean, just like a little share of my personal life. I'm on vacation coming back from Las Vegas, and I stop at a little town, and there's a dinosaur museum. And what do? I send you pictures from it. I'm like, check this out.
And you're not the only one that does that.
I'm like, why am I doing
once or twice
this?
a week. This is argument for branding, I suppose.
It seems to be a real thing because I would have never even thought twice about a sign that says Dinosaur Museum in Fruita, Nebraska, or Colorado, wherever. I don't even know where I was. In the middle of nowhere.
All right, but since we're off topic 15 seconds into the
I know,
episode,
exactly.
Why don't you tell them the actual picture you sent and now what I have to do here?
Oh, the picture was they took a van and they made it into it looked like not a T-Rex, but what is...
Oh, it was Triceratops.
Triceratops, okay, yeah, which would fit perfectly. And it just had the horns and it was all tricked out in the green dinosaur look. I mean, it looked like maybe it was an old ice cream truck or something, but it was repurposed. And I thought, what a great idea. You could take that to trade shows. You could drive it around town.
Yeah, at some point we have to now, so thanks for costing me a bunch of money. The best thing I had to compare it to was it looked like the dinosaur version of the Mutt Cuts van from Dumb and Dumber. That's exactly what it looked like.
That is true. It did. Yeah, no, that's true.
So if you need a visual, that's it. It's Mutt Cuts, but dinosaur.
Well, then I think what is... on the inside, you could put a portable podcast studio on the inside and we could go live on the road.
I zoomed in on that picture you sent me and the tires were on the rim. They were on the rim. So
yeah.
I don't think that dinosaur goes anywhere.
It hadn't been out of the parking lot.
It might not be street legal.
No. The picture on the website and what I saw in person, the van hadn't moved. So
at one point it might have.
So at one point it might have moved, but I think you're right. I think it's there to attract attention.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge was the two higher horns on the Triceratops head probably would hit the top of the drive-thrus.
Well, that's what I thought, too. If you're parking in a parking ramp or you're going through a drive-thru, you're limited in where you can go with the dyno.
And as you know, I've had staff hit a van with overhead clearance issues. So.
I've had someone do the same thing with that same van.
Yeah, so there you go.
And I never fixed it. I'm like, how did you manage that? It was almost like, wow, even though I told you not to do that, I'm impressed that you only ripped one of the two, racks on the top off. But we digress.
No, this episode is number 58. It's about
Isn't that crazy?
Maintaining lead gen.
Yeah.
Which I suppose branding continues to maintain lead gen for us.
It can.
We had a visitor in the office last week that wanted to come see the herd quarters here. I wasn't here when she walked through, unfortunately, but she did send me a picture holding a dinosaur in the office. So,
nice.
And what were you greeted by today? But
yeah, what is it? You call it animatronic? I mean, it was or is it more like a puppet? It's it made noises, and I didn't notice if the eyes lit up, but I will say that you have staff members who evidently have second careers as, mannequin or ventriloquists.
Yeah, you have to be really careful what you share in your resume here, because I tend to remember what seems like obscure details, and then at some point, when you least expect it, we'll use that skill set.
When you asked Katie to come do that, she was a little embarrassed. I'm like, so is this like a side hustle or?
We could have the dinosaur as a guest on the podcast, but its vocabulary is a little low.
Yeah, a lot of grunts and some sharp teeth. You got to be careful.
And we're in our new podcast studio today, which I can hear echoing throughout the cavern. So
it's a big room.
Yeah, we're going to call this a temporary location for this, as we've discussed potentially bringing back the video podcast.
I mean, I can't wait for that. Means I got to dress up a little bit, shave.
No, you don't have to dress up. We do have to build a set.
Well, that's fine. We could probably do that.
So look forward to that coming in early 2032.
Can't the dyno just build a set? They're pretty strong. I mean, can't you have them move stuff around?
It sounds like an excuse to spend some money.
That's true. I'm all for that. It's not my money.
All right, so lead gen. In addition to branding, I wanted to bring up the topic of consistency. Really, at the end of the day, this is what this is all about. So, our sales team here has been cranking on some sales goals, and last week they hit their number on Friday towards the end of the day, and the comment made was, you know what, this kind of happened organically. Yeah, we were pushing. And the clock was dwindling down towards the end of the week, but everything that came in just kind of boomeranged back to us. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I failed to congratulate them because I'm just terrible at that. But, the comment I made was, well, yeah, it's a result of everything you did the month leading up to it. And a lot of people forget that. And you were showing me some brochures and stuff from the trade show you were just at, and kind of commenting, boy, I really got to get some stuff back out to get some stuff back. And, that's, even as a marketing agency, it's a battle for us internally as well to consistently do those things that aren't urgent in the quadrant, right? The important, non-urgent quadrant. I think that's a Stephen Covey thing. I could be wrong, but yeah. And direct mail for us has been that, dare I say, lazy piece that's consistent. So, as you know, at a minimum, we get the newsletter out the door every month. Mm-hmm. And that will slowly build up relationships, and they'll bubble back up top. With no additional effort, it's positive ROI, but with some additional effort, it's a lot better. But the other thing we do is, referral letter campaigns. As you know as well, we consistently teach a lot of people to do this, where you just send out 1,000 as a random number, but it's a pretty common number for us. Send out 1,000 letters every month introducing yourself to people that can refer you. And just that basic strategy in play consistently has built entire businesses for clients. We wish they would do 3 other things, but they get one that's working it, and they stick with that. So out of curiosity here, I see a couple different companies' brochures you brought back from the trade show. So you were a lead for people walking through on the show floor. This was not something where you were exhibiting. You were an attendee. Yep. I'm kind of curious if you've gotten any follow-up.
I have. I've gotten a follow-up only from the vendors that I interacted with directly on the floor, like I thought I might buy something, or I signed up, like give me your info or give me your business card. Because when you first get there, you get a bag and everyone's got a card or something in there. So in one way, everyone reached me once, but they don't know who I am. I assume the show gave them my email because I'm starting to get some of that, but no, I really 3 or 4 people who I talked to and interacted with and thought I might buy something, who took an interest, they're the only ones that have gotten back to me.
Yeah, so maybe this is still fresh too.
Yeah, it's only
a couple work days back.
Yeah,
so
less than a week.
That might be the ones that think you're a hot lead. That particular show, I had actually exhibited in maybe 10 years ago now, and at that point they didn't sell off the list, so they must have got your name somehow else, or you've signed up and don't remember, or a photo booth gathered it, or something.
Yeah, true.
So I'm curious, and I'll ask you again in a future episode here, what you got for longer term follow up, because that's typically where the ball's dropped. Even companies with sales teams are good at catching. You identified yourself as a good lead, but now what about all those other prospects that were there? And most of them dropped the ball on that. So we'll see. I'm curious if you're going to get any mail. What method have you got contact? So surely you've got email.
It's all been email. And
any text, any phone calls?
Not yet. No phone calls, no text. And it's funny because it was a photo booth and a DJ convention. I did go and try different booths, and then instead of printing it and bringing it home, I just would send myself a text. So there are at least 3 or 4 software/photo booth operator companies that have my phone number, and none of them have texted me yet.
A cell phone at that.
My cell phone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so far it's only been email, and it's been email from people who are like, hey, I know you're interested in this. We did sell at, the discount's over, but we could do this or that. But even those were only one follow-up email. No one's called me and said, hey, you didn't buy that. You never came back on right before we closed, and we were going to send it home with you.
And that's a fairly big conference, too. It keeps growing, right? You have any idea on attendee count? Because
I bet there could have been as many as 700 or 800 because in the couple sessions, like the very first one, the very first day, by the last day, there are 12 people at every breakout, where the first day, everyone's in the same room. I would say there were 700 to 800 people, maybe even more, because the first day, the big room, the ballroom was packed. And that was, I bet 700 or 800, maybe even more.
All right. So that's I guess that's similar then. I thought maybe they kept growing, but that's about what was in the room when I spoke at that conference quite a while ago. Which leads me to believe that selling on the show floor is probably fairly competitive then, because you have, call it 1,000 attendees.
Yep.
And that's a pretty big show floor for a conference for exhibitors. So I'm guessing there may be 100 exhibitors.
Maybe probably about 20 DJ exhibitors, and then 70 or so of the photo booth. It is every year I go to the trade show and I'm like, I know it's coming, and I walk in and I'm like, wow, there's just stuff everywhere, and and really they're all selling kind of the same thing. It's a different type of booth, or we're selling software, or we have props, or we have backdrops, and it is kind of competitive, but the ones that are selling the bigger ticket items, like the new glam booth thing, robotic arm photo booth, that are priced at $17,000 to $20,000, they're not hard selling anybody. You either want it or you don't. You either can pay for it, and you and I had this conversation a couple nights ago at a Hawkeye game. It's very clear to me when I network with people at those events, not that I'm the biggest business in the world, but it's very obvious to me which people are there that actually don't have any money and are barely surviving in their business, and which ones are thriving just by the conversations you have.
Yeah, that's just it. I think the market for the high end at that event it's there, but it's probably limited. So you're talking every lead matters in that show then, because you got a 10-to-1 attendee to exhibitor ratio, which is awful for the exhibitors. Mm-hmm. Arguably one of the only shows that certainly the largest, but one of the only that they have that opportunity for. Yeah. There might be a handful of smaller ones I'm not familiar with throughout the year, but that's their big opportunity for lead gen. Mm-hmm. And when it's gone, it's gone. However, they got to survive the entire year. So
yeah.
Have you noticed any ads chasing you online or anything?
Not that I can recall, actually. No, not that I think about it. I probably wouldn't have thought about it, but now that we're talking about it right now, the lead follow-up really, I did talk to probably 25 different vendors and express some interest in this or that, or am already on their mailing list from previous years. Not a lot of follow-up. And this is a 3-day conference, and on Thursday it's half day, and that's when everyone's like, we'd rather sell this than ship it back. But on Thursday, before I'm ready to go to the airport or whatever, it's more about like moving stuff up. They don't want to sell, they just want to get rid of their stuff, so they don't have to send it home. But I don't really remember. I've had more follow-up from the show itself wanting me to book next year's ticket at a reduced price than I have any of the vendors.
That's because they got the full list.
That's what I mean.
And they know the time you're most likely to do that is while you're there or shortly thereafter. This gets infinitely harder to generate a lead afterwards. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. As you know, I'm a huge proponent of exhibiting and sponsoring events. It's an easy win for us as well. We put a fair amount of time, effort, and money behind that. But then there's the other 360 some days a year. And it's important that you have some sort of machine kind of churning along to keep dripping those leads in throughout the year. The quick hits are fun,
but you also can't count on some of the prop companies I've bought from forever. So they're just counting on that I'm going to remember them. And I do. And so when I buy props, I'll buy from the same 2 or 3 people that I didn't buy directly on the floor, but maybe that's a big risk that they're taking that I'm going to buy from them later, and they don't need to mail to me. I did get one. They must have the list because one vendor I did not go to, a prop vendor, sent me an email, and I've purchased from them before. But the email was, hey, first-time buyer, sign up here. Thanks for coming to the show. And I'm like, you already have my email. I've spent thousands of dollars with you.
little automation miss on that one.
Yeah,
but
and there were lots of vendors. The stuff that was not $15,000, the $1,000 photo booth shell, or the software, or those were the ones who were so busy they didn't have enough people to handle the people wanting to buy.
They're collecting the money, and most of them are running show specials, right? And they're discounting. They're also the ones that the sales a low enough dollar amount that when it comes to direct mail, it may not be appropriate. So they've lost one media there already. Doesn't mean they can't email, obviously, or text. But it gets harder. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what sort of results to expect when you have that machine in place. So we'll define the machine a little more, and then let's talk about results and expectations.
And now, back to Triceratalks with your host, Justin Miller.
I feel like the dinosaur stomps on where I'm supposed to come in.
He really is loud there, too. The production value is top notch.
No, Justin Miller, roar.
Exactly. You could just... Yeah.
So his name's Justin Miller. I don't know. All right, let's talk lead gen machine. So I had offhand mentioned that we have a lot of clients that mail like 1,000 letters a month for this to try and generate referral sources. And I do want to emphasize referral sources, not referrals. So this is a key point. We like to chase people that can refer multiple clients to you. So when people hear referral campaigns, typically they say, okay, can my client send me someone else? And that's not what I'm talking about here. That's valid and viable, but it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about finding someone in a parallel industry that can send you 3 to 5 clients per year in perpetuity. Completely different math, completely different game. But anyhow, so we send 1,000 of those letters out a month. What is a realistic expectation to happen for sending 1,000 cold letters that are properly worded to a parallel industry? And it doesn't matter the industry, so I'll steal yours. We work in a lot of professional services, but yours is a good example because you're here. So, of course, you have multiple services. So let's say we're selling wedding DJ services. Mm-hmm. Who would the parallel industries be that could refer and likely would refer business to you?
Hotels, caterers, wedding dresses, tuxes.
Great. So we gather lists of those and gather 1,000, which might be actually pretty difficult to grab 1,000. So you would scale down for your particular industry or geography that you're serving, I should say. But we send out 1,000 of those saying, hey, I'm Kevin. I do this. You can help your clients this way. And here's how you refer them over. And here's what they can expect when they come in. That's essentially the letter, by the way, in a nutshell. It's worded a little better. But you send out 1,000 of those. What do you think you should expect to happen?
Probably a fairly small, although I don't know if you're well known by some of these people, maybe.
Let's assume they don't know you.
They don't know me. I would say, I don't know, is it less than 10% are going to even like call you or follow up or?
Yeah, so let's analyze it. So if we had 10%, we sent out 1,000, that would be 100 phone calls. I would be the richest man alive.
Okay. So it's even less than 10%. So it's less than 5%?
Yeah, probably less than 5%. So if we send out 1,000, typically the campaigns we're doing, we're expecting like a handful of calls.
Not even like 20. You're talking like...
20 would be amazing.
Okay.
But I want the math to work even if you don't get that many.
And this is what? The math is on one letter or on the 5th letter I send out?
Well, that's a good point.
Okay.
So repetition does help, but for the example's sake, on the first letter, good caveat, yes, I would never send one letter. I would follow it up with more. But let's just say we do one. What should happen on that first one? If we're sending 1,000, I would expect a handful of calls or emails.
Okay.
And that's it. And this floors some people because 1,000 letters, that's real money. That's over $1,000 probably by the time it's all said and done, which is a fair assumption. And God, that's $200 a phone call, $200 a lead.
Yeah.
Yep. But here's the thing. This is not a lead for a single client. So if we take a look at what that lead can be worth, and let's take we'll take banquet hall. Take banquet hall. They have, I don't know, like 30 weddings a year, 40 weddings a year. Mm-hmm. What if they referred 5 a year that became clients? And this is off one phone call, by the way. You have 5 of these phone calls going on, hopefully. And they're not like just going to magically do it. Like there is like an art and science to building a real relationship here. But let's say out of 5 inquiries, we get 2 of these to turn into long-term referral sources.
Okay.
2. Sounds like the one funnel away thing, but it's not, I promise.
Just one.
But if we get 2 that are going to send you 3 to 5 clients per year, call it for the next 5 years, we got 30 transactions going on off of 5 phone calls.
That's a lot more than $200.
Yeah. And there's cash flow timing. So here's, the caveats is, you had to spend up front to do the marketing, and you're going to gain your return over time. So it's the get rich slow plan, which doesn't sound very sexy. But this is, I assure you, how fortunes are made. And we have clients that only do this technique. So really what you have to think of is, I don't want to call it exponential because it's not necessarily exponential math, but it's compounding. There's a compounding factor here where you have to completely look long-term into building long-term referral sources. And we're doing a webinar about this, coming up. Yeah, it'll be after this podcast is released. So if you want to reach out to us about this, but we'll give you all the in-depth version. But the short version is to continually then have those 1,000 letters a month going out, and you'll have your 5-ish phone calls a month. Plus, as you were alluding to, the compounding factor of multiple letters, you'll get more response. So we send more, usually 3+ to the same person to build that trust and relationship. Because let's face it, people aren't just sitting around thinking, who can I refer out business to? Whose business can I help besides my own today?
Well, and I think that the small business owner who may not have tried this, I think the first thing they're going to think of is, well, why would they do that for me? What's in it for them? What do I have to do for them? Yeah,
and you have to address that, right? Like you have to address that in the copy. And it should be a mutually beneficial win-win-win relationship, not just you and the referring vendor, but the end client as well. But I assume anyone listening to this probably does a pretty good job with whatever service they happen to provide. So it should be win-win. And here's another little caveat is this is not an I'm going to pay you for a referral type relationship.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. If the conversation goes there, I mean, you can decide whether or not that makes sense in your world, but if you go in with that intent and you make it all about money, you're going to kill the effectiveness of this type of marketing. This is about a mutual beneficial relationship. Had an example of what was probably a pay-per lead this morning, actually. So someone rear-ended my SUV last night, and I took it in at 8 a.m. this morning to get an estimate from the body shop because it's a nuisance to me, and I'm going to get this done as quickly as humanly possible without getting ripped off in the process. But before I had even driven to the office from the body shop, which is less than a 10-minute drive, by the way, an enterprise rent-a-car person called me on my phone.
Oh, jeez.
Because the body shop had shared,
Sure.
Here's someone that's going to need a rental car.
Yep.
Now, I assure you they got paid for that. This is not the mutually beneficial relationship I'm talking about. These are 2 large companies. I guarantee there's money flowing between the 2. So you can pay referrals. It does work. He was bombarded with questions from me that he probably wasn't used to. I wouldn't figure out, where they got the lead from and, what was going on behind the scenes. Like the insurance adjuster hasn't even looked at the claim yet, so I know this isn't the actual set you up with the rental car.
Yeah.
But referral marketing is often, I don't want to say ignored, but it's left as a byproduct and natural product when you can intentionally create these relationships and build entire businesses out of them. So we used 1,000 letters as an example, but we have clients that mail 30,000 at a time. So it just depends what you can serve. And you can do it in any business. I did it in the wedding industry. Yeah. I did it with photographers. We actually did not a pay-per-lead type thing, but we did a discount for the end client on when we did that campaign. So, and this changes the conversation too. So it's a bit different of approach, and you can judge for yourself. But we did like a $25 or $50 off. Give this to your client as a gift from us, and it worked well.
It still works. I still use it.
Yeah. So, they feel like a hero for giving out the discount. at this point, most of the campaigns we do don't revolve around the discount at all. They're really, more on the professional relationship side, and they work. And I realize, like, we're recording this early, and I don't sound too excited about this, but this is like bread and butter work for us that we just know we can put on repeat, and it can help in multiple industries.
So it's a slow grow. It'll take time, and you feed it. How much more successful will it be if you are a mover and a shaker in your, say you're a member of the chamber, and you know a lot of other business people? Does it speed up the success if you're able to use a network you already are warm there, so you're not just sending people?
Well, look, if it's not completely cold, you just bypassed a couple of steps. So yeah, you're going to get a higher return. I was just making the assumptions that you already dealt with your warm relationships well, but
well, and that's true. You should already be doing that. But again, just like what we're talking about here, I'll be the first one to admit it, because I have other businesses and I have other interests, and evidently run around watching sports constantly, which I've gotten you into now.
We got to take a different vehicle this weekend.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe the rental car will take if Enterprise sets you up in time. I almost lost my train of thought, but it becomes. I do it all the time.
You were making excuses for why you can't maintain those warm relationships.
I'm just sometimes too lazy to do it. You take it for granted because you know they're there. And often when I go talk to a vendor, they're like, well, I haven't seen you in a while, or you haven't done an event here for a while. And I'm like, I probably should bring some donuts by more often.
Well, look, and you're like way more naturally extroverted than me, right? Like I can fake it while we're recording and when I'm on stage. But I ain't going to go talk to a bunch of random strangers at the chamber. I might find two and sit with them if I was there. So this, for someone like me, really fills the gap.
True.
To where by the time we're talking one-on-one, like, we've already kind of established what we're talking about, and we let the letter do the heavy lifting. Now I still got to be likable and be able to serve them, right? This is still building a real relationship. But this is, putting the name out there in the feelers and getting a chance to explain in a few paragraphs, why this makes sense. So it's bread and butter work for us. We have an in-depth webinar coming up. You can reach out to our sales staff to get an invite to that. If you happen to be listening to this way past when we post it, undoubtedly there'll be a recording unless Zoom screws it up. So reach out. We'll be happy to send it to you. Or it's also one of the chapters in Jurassic Marketing, the book. It's like Schwartz, the cereal. That's right. But this will be a much more in-depth take on it. So that's it. Make sure, and I don't care if it's this technique for referrals or another, but you need pieces that are in play and consistently going out month after month after month to fill in the times between the quick bursts of money you might get from exhibiting or trade shows. So do your lead gen, keep it running. It's a machine. It requires fuel. We come back with our next episode. We're going to switch gears completely away from marketing, and we're going to talk a little about leadership development and company growth, which is a mission we've been on for a while, and I think you'll like the updates.
Thanks for listening to the Triceratalks podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave your comments. For more information on how Jurassic Marketing Direct Mail can help grow your business, visit JurassicMarketing.com.